Okay, welcome everybody. This is 11.1, factoring trinomials. So now we went backwards from multiplying, right? So the first step of factor, we want to do what's called factoring out, right? Quotation. So we're gonna factor out the GCF, the greatest common factor. Okay, so basically what we're doing is reversing what we did with the distributive property. Okay, so it's the reverse of the distributive property. Okay. So like here's an example here. So example one. So like 3 parentheses this. So what we did was multiply, right? 3 times 4x and 3 times negative 15 will give us a solution, right? So now we need to go backwards. So from 12x minus 45, we need to factor out and go to where we started, right? To the beginning. So we want to go backwards to see where we started from. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're taking out a 3 or factoring out a 3. Okay, so we're factoring a 3 from each term to get back to the beginning. Because we multiplied it by 3, so we factored out a 3 to get back to the beginning. Okay, so how to write this out? So what we're going to do is we're going to write out our factors, right? So factors of 12x. So factors of 12, 2 times 2 times 3. Let's write that out. So how do we know that? So factors of 12, we can use a factor tree, right? So factor tree. So 12 could be 2 times 6, right? So that's 12. And in 6, we can factor with 2 times 3. And in 2, 2, and 3 are prime numbers, so we can't go any longer, so we can't go any further. So those are our numbers right there, right? So we got 2, 2, 3. All right, so that's our factors, 2, 2, 3. Factors of 12, and then we have 1x, so put 1x. And I kind of spread them apart so we can see what's common. Factors of negative 45. Yeah, so we have a negative 1, so take out negative 1 first. All right, so negative 45, negative 1, and 45. We take out that negative. And then 45 is 5 times 9. And then 9, you can break that down into 3 times 3. All right, so those are all our numbers right there. So negative 1, 5, 3, and 3. And this factor tree is also going to help us out when we're trying to simplify radicals or simplify square roots, which we're going to get to that. Right, so we have negative 1, negative 1, 3, 3, 5. Those are all our factors. And this one does not have an x. And then we're going to look them up. What is common? Right, so the common number is a 3. So that is the GCF right there. Because that's the only thing that's common is 3. Right, so the 3 is your GCF. So 3 is the greatest common factor, which means we must factor it out. So that's why we put it in front of the parentheses. And now we just figure out what goes in the parentheses, right? What's left over. So after we take out the 3, right, we cross that out. So when we look at what's left over, we have a 2, 2x, which is 2 times 2 is 4, and 1x. So we take out, so we look at what's left. What's left? So what's left? This one we have a negative 1, 3, 5. So 3 times 5, 15, times negative 1, negative 15. So this is what's left, right? So that goes right here, 4x minus 15. Okay, so that's what goes inside. So we got 4x minus 15. And that's our factor. So we have our GCF 3, we took it out. And what's left? 4x minus 15. And that's how we factor. Okay, we check by distributing. When we check our answer, we should get the same answer. Okay, again, so we're going to write out our factors, right? So write out our factors of 3x squared. So 3x squared, simplify. 3 and 2x's. 9 is 3 times 3. Let's write that, right? So 9 is 3 times 3. Our factor tree, 3 times 3. We don't really need it, but we just write it out. So 3, 3. So we have 3 times 3 and 1x. And we look at what's common, the 3 and 1x, right? So that's what we're factoring out. So we're factoring out 3x right there. So that's why we took out 3x, because that's the only common factor. So that's a GCF, right? So 3x is the greatest common factor. And what's left? What do we put in there? After we cross these out, we're left with x and 3, right? So together, that's x plus 3, right? And that's why we put it in the parentheses, right there, x plus 3. Yeah, so that's how we got our answer. So again, if we have 3 terms, same thing, we write out the factors of each one. So 5, that's a prime number, 5, 2x's, so xx. Negative 10, we take out the negative 1. Right, so negative 10, we take out negative 1. 10 is 2 times 5. That's our factor tree. Negative 1, 2, and 5. That's why we got negative 1, 2, and 5 with 1x. Factors of 20, 2 and 10. And 10 is 2 times 5, right? So our factors 2, 2, 5. That's how we got 2, 2, 5. Okay, and the only thing that's common is a 5. So that's our GCF. 5 is the greatest common factor, so that's why we put it in the front here. Then we look at what is left. So what's left? X times x, so 2x is x squared. This one will be negative 2x. This one will be 4. So altogether, what's left is x squared minus 2x plus 4. And that's how we got this right here, what's left over. And you can check by multiplying. Right, distributing, they should be equal. Okay, so let's do some examples here. So the whole point, right, we want to write out our factors first so we can identify what's common. What is the GCF? Right, so we write the factors of 35x first. So 35x, right, the factors of 35x. So 35, so we do our factor tree again, right, 35, 5 times 7. And that's it, right? 5 and 7 are prime numbers. So our numbers are 5 and 7. Then we go to negative 20. So negative 20, right, a factor tree, right? Negative 1, we take out the 20, or we take out the negative, right, from the 20. 20 is 2 times 10, or 4 times 5, same thing. Let's do 4 times 5. And then 4, you can break that down to and a 2. So we have negative 1, 2, 2, and a 5. So those are our factors, right? Negative 1, 2, we'll write it out here, 2, 2, 5. Go for that top one. Top one has an x, right there, x, with the 35x. Right, then we're going to identify what is common. So I just wrote it right here. The only thing common is a 5. Right, so 5 is the GCF. Okay, so we're going to write 5 right here, parentheses. So we're going to find out what is left, right? So what is left over, let's make some space here. So what is left over, we write it here. Right, so what's left over here? 7 and an x. So what's left over? 7x. So we write 7x. What's left over here? We have negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4. Right there. And that is what we write in our parentheses. We put this right there. Right, so that's 7x minus 4. That's what's left over. Okay, so we found our GCF, what is common. So we factored that out. So basically we took that out, right? Take it out. And then we find out what's left, 7 and x, so 7x, and then negative 4. So 7x minus 4 is what goes in our parentheses. Okay, so let's look at the next one. X squared minus 8x. So we're going to write each factor. Let's make some space. So x squared is x times x, right? Our two factors. Negative 8x, so negative 8, you know, negative 1, and then let's break it down. So negative 8, negative 1 times 8. 8 is 2 times 4. 4 is 2 times 2. So we have negative 1, 2, 2, and a 2. So those are our factors using the factor tree, right? So we have negative 1, 2, 2, 2. So let's look at, oh, it also has an x, right? So put x there. There's negative 8x. So let's look at what is common between the two. The only thing that's common is an x, right? So we just look at what is common. So the only thing common here is an x. So that is what we're going to write here. So x. And we want to factor out the x because the x is our GCF. Okay. So let's see. So what's left over? We write what's left, right? So x is left. Our top one, the bottom one. What's left over, right? Because we canceled that. So what's left over? Negative 8. So x minus 8 is our factor. So that's what we write in here, x minus 8. Okay, so we want to cancel out the common factor. Right, so cancel common factor. So factors. Cancel common factors, right? And what's left is your GCF here, right? What's left? Or what's left is what you put in the parentheses next to your GCF. The GCF is what you take out, the 5. So 7x minus 4, that's what's left. Okay, so let's write the next one. So let's look at all our factors again. So 25x squared, let's write that out. So 25x squared. So we're going to write out our factors. So 25 is 5 times 5, right? So 5, 5. Well, we have two x's, x, right? Because x squared. That's 25x squared. Then we go negative 25x, and we can kind of go a little bit faster, right? You have a negative 1, and then 25 is going to be 5, and 5 again, and 1x. Right? So if we don't need the factor tree, we don't need to draw it out. But the factor tree does help. It tells us what all factors are, just to make sure you can write it out. Okay, then we look at what is common, right? So what's common? We have a 5 here, we have another 5, and we also have 1x, right? So that's common. So together, that is 25, right? 5 times 5 is 25 with an x. So 25x. So we write that here. So 25x is our GCF, right? So this is our GCF, 25x. So we took it out, okay? So it's like this one, GCF, is 5. This one, GCF, we took out an X. So our GCF is an X. Okay, then we look at what's going to be left in the parentheses. All right, so we find out what is left. So these were canceled, 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 right? Because we took it out. So we look on the top, we're left with just X. Next level, we left with just -1. So that's it right there. So what's left over is X minus 1. So we put that in the parentheses. Right, this is our leftovers. Like food, leftovers, right? And that's it. Okay, next one. So now we have 3 terms. We just write them all. So we have 4x squared. So 4x squared is, so write them all, 8x -2. Okay, so 4x squared, 4 is 2 times 2. We know that. 2, 2. And we have 2 x's. Then we do 8. Right? We did 8 before, is 2 times 2 times 2. Right? That's 8. So write that out. And then -2, right? We take out the negative, and we have 1, 2. And this one, we're at the x there. Okay, then we look at what's common, right? Between all of them, remember, they all have to have the same numbers, the same factors. And the only thing that's common between all of them is 2. Okay, so it must be common with all terms. So this is your GCF, right? So your GCF is 2. Okay, and that number we put up here. And we're going to make our parentheses a little bit longer because we have 3 terms left. So that's our GCF. And then we cancel that, right? That's gone. Then we look at what's the leftovers, right? So leftovers. What's the leftovers? So on the top, we have a 2 and 2 x's, right? So 2x squared. In the middle, we have 2 times 2, which is 4, and 1x. On the bottom, we just left with -1. So our leftovers, right, is right there. So that's going to be 2x squared plus 4x minus 1. And that's what we left over with. So we write that in there, 2x squared plus 4x minus 1. Okay, and that's finding the GCF right there. Right, so we want to find what, write out all the factors. We can use a factor tree to help us out. What's common? That's our GCF, 5. And we look, what's left over, right? Leftovers. 7x, so 7x, and then negative 2 times 2 is 4. So 7x minus 4 is what we put in the parentheses. Okay, that's our leftovers. Same way here, this is our leftovers. Okay, same way here, factor out all our factors. What's common? That's our GCF. What's left over, right? Leftovers is what we put in the parentheses. Okay, again, what's common is our GCF, right? So 5 times 5 is 25, 1x. The leftovers is what we put in the parentheses. This one we have 3 terms. We have to find a factor that's common between all 3 terms, and that's our GCF. 2 leftovers here goes in the parentheses.